Hello everyone, Zellerant here, and today I thought we could take a look kind of at the polling priority for Suomi, but I wanted to kind of take a different approach today, is because I've seen a lot of feedback on my last video or discussion around polling different tiers of Suomi, and one of the things is I wanted to look at a CN tier list not only just for the units themselves, but also future teams when it comes to platoon bosses, which currently is the most difficult content in the game, to kind of give you an idea of what units you're going to want to look at getting in the future. So we'll go ahead and switch here to my screen. And so the first thing is, this is just a tier list on the characters themselves. Now, this was posted by someone in my Discord on another CN tier list. This is different than what Pridewind currently has for theirs. Now, this one is specifically targeted at Gunsmoke and not the generic content. So this is going to be all about the DPS check that you can see with Gunsmoke. But that is where you're needing right now, currently in the game. That is the most difficult content where you're going to really want to build your account for, because pretty much everything else can be done quite easily with whatever you can put together, at least at this point. And so right now we can kind of see on the tier list, now this has a lot of units that we don't have in the game yet, but we have the newest fire unit that goes to the fire team. Now I did notice that for her specifically, they have her on the tier list for if you have her at 0 or V0 as well as V6, because she is another character that becomes extremely broken if you go all the way to V6 for her, similar to how Kluke does it. So you can kind of see a lot of similarities on their list here. I mean, you have Kluke, you have Talolia, Springfield, QJ on this list. But you can see one thing that is distinctly different from most the other tier lists that I've seen, and most of them, which is that they do not have Suomi as T0 in this one. And this is going to be kind of the approach we'll kind of look at when we look at the different teams they have, or the best team for each element on the next list we have here. But you can see a lot of the other supporting units are here, which includes the unit that is coming up, which is Dush, which is going to be your support for Ice team. Now, we already know you have Suomi as your sustain for Ice team currently, but when we look at the other one, you'll kind of be surprised to see what they have for Ice team. I think it's kind of see some of the other supports that'll be coming up in the future here. Then on T2, you kind of start seeing some of the units that we have versus some of the other ones that we don't yet. And then you can see where a lot of the SRs fall off down here. And then you kind of have like Ulrid, you have Dayan, you have Jianju. So the ones that are really not currently good on the meta level for doing a lot of damage to the guild boss. Specifically, some of the units like Jianju just really wants a lot of dupes to do good. And then you have Lena, which is CC's not as necessary for guild bosses, which is why she's kind of down here, even though I consider her a good unit overall to pick up. But now we'll go ahead and take a look at their other one here. And there'll be something that sticks out quite clearly when we look at this list. Now, this is going to be basically your best teams per element at this point, based on this person's list. This is this person's tier list in terms of the units that are best for the specific elements within the game at this point. But I think it is highly agreed upon by a lot of people. Now, you're going to see something that is... Well, there's one thing that's glaring on this one, is that you do not see Suomi on this list at all. And even when you look at what they currently have as the meta Ice team, if you want to build around Ice in the CN version, you have Macchiato, of course, because she's the core DPS. And then you have Dush, who is the core support for Ice. But then they have, you're going to want to bring, and you're going to see this on a lot of these, you're going to bring Tololo and Kluke. And then your sustain or extra unit is going to be Springfield. And just, I mean, the big thing is, and you'll see Springfield is pretty much your sustain on all of them except the Burn team, which has Cinerisi in it. And the big thing is the damage amplification that Springfield brings is so big, and she has heals within her kit, that it pretty much negates any need for having Suomi there. When it comes to Ice, you have Macchiato that needs she needs to keep herself above 80% to trigger her one condition for doing her support attacks. Quite easy to keep when she has her own ability to put the shield up. And then it's kind of similar to Dush, where she can't put her own shield up, but she can keep herself out of danger being a sniper like her. And then you have Kluke and Tololo, who are going to kind of be your front lines alongside of Springfield. And so they shouldn't even be taking the hits in the first place to have that shield be necessary for them. And the big thing is, I mean, Tololo Springfield is on a lot of these lists as well because they are so broken in terms of you can throw them on any team and they're going to be good. Kind of the same thing with Kluke. Kluke you can throw on any team and they're going to be good. Because you can look here, you have the electric team, has Belka and Andrus, which is the core two main electric units that like pretty much works really well together. And then they say just throw Kluke, Tololo, and Springfield, and there you go, max damage there. Then you have the burn. The burn team's the most separate of all of them. And the big reason is the burn team is the most complete of everything we have in the game at this point, because they just released Pari and Chahua, or I can't say your name. The shotgun fire unit, basically the Shark-free replacement here. And so we can kind of see that we don't think all the teams are fully complete at this point. So you probably are going to expect some more ice units to come here in the future, is another thing. But as you can see, right now, Suomi is kind of falling off in terms of being there to do that maximum damage. She is strictly a sustain. And that's kind of why I think for those that are like thinking about, hey, I want to get V2 for Suomi to be that extra damage dealing for your ice team, it's absolutely not worth it, because in the long run, it's going to be more about, I mean, you're just better off bringing another big-time DPS or damage amp like Springfield in the future. And Suomi is really just good for that. Hey, I want to auto these levels, and she's going to make it where the stupidity of the AI is fine because you're going to be able to auto it. And you can kind of see that, like, even on the... Another kind of weird one here is they have on, like, the Hydro team here, where it has Tololo, I think it's Jahui, and Springfield. Then it brings in Burn with QJ and Vector in it, just because a lot of this is targeting the platoon bosses, which currently right now are only DPS checks, and they are going to be the ones that amplify it the most there. And so you can kind of see that with all the lists at this point. But we don't know what they're going to be releasing in the future. But anything that they release that power creeps or kind of replaces any of these characters here on this list. So like if they're going to release someone that kind of replaces the sustain of having Springfield with your ice, well, they're going to power creep Suomi as well in that case. Because if you don't have, like if you're using Springfield on Platoon Boss and another one of your teams, then you're going to probably want to, that's when you'll probably have Suomi come in. So you could still, she's still going to be useful in this, but it's not as big of a need. And when it comes to actually platoon bosses, since you can borrow one unit, Springfield's going to be the best one to borrow in your platoon, especially if someone has a V6 Springfield. And if you're borrowing Springfield for whatever your teams are, well, then you're going to be borrowing over your ice team anyway. And so this is just kind of a quick look at some future teams you can kind of see here to get the point of, if you're looking at it in terms of scope of meta, Suomi is not that for the ice team, at least at this point in CN. They always could add more content in the future that makes it where you require that heavier defensive capabilities that Suomi can provide. But at this point, it is absolutely not necessary because Springfield is definitely not better than Suomi in sustain. But she does plenty enough that it is good enough to bring her instead because of how much extra she provides in that damage amplification. And so now you can make whoever you want to work, whoever's your favorite units in that. I thought I would just kind of bring this out for the people specifically that are looking at V2 and thinking, or even going farther than V2, because Suomi is so broken in terms of her defensive capabilities. Now, this could always change in the future, but the big thing also that we know from how they've run the banners is by, I believe it's like in probably half a year or a little bit after the half anniversary, they start doing the second reruns of units. And that's when we will see Suomi almost certainly come again at some point, because she's going to be a popular one for them to rerun, because she's always going to be the best sustainer, at least for a while. And so if you don't want to get it now, and we see in the future somehow she gets, when she gets her expansion key, because Suomi doesn't have an expansion key yet on the CN side, but her expansion key may give her more capabilities to be a replacement for, say, Suomi on the ice team. That's when you may want to be able to target a V2 or something potentially in the future. But at this point, especially if you're free to play or a low spender, I feel like this is a good indicator that you should just hold off, stick with your V0 or V1 for now. Go ahead and get Dush because she is going to be a core of the ice team in the future. And that's pretty much all I wanted to say on that. Give me your thoughts on that. I mean, this is just kind of thinking it from a meta level. So if you like Suomi, there's no harm in investing her in the ice team. I'm just kind of trying to show that it's not completely necessary if you're wanting to get the best of the best when it comes to building your ice team or building around, say, Macchiato. So, but that's pretty much it. If you like my content, if you could like, comment, and subscribe, it really helps. And thanks for watching.